Going back to their pass at the end of the game yesterday, what was the idea? I mean, the middle of the field was wide open, so I'm sure it probably wasn't what you're looking for. Something else
Yeah, I mean, obviously, can't be in that call in that situation. There's a cutoff time for that, and usually for us, it's 12 seconds is the cutoff. There's 15 seconds, but where the breakdown in communication occurred was, if you stop them short of the line to gain, then I mean they can't clock the ball. It's fourth down, so you're not going to get another play. So, ultimately that's on me.
You would have preferred to send more guys at him, or are you saying
You just got to play a different call. I have no problem playing the outside leverage. You just need a robber or a low hole player at the line to gain, because they're running, they put a bunch into the boundary or trips into the boundary, and they're trying to get the ball out of bounds if you allow them to, and that's why you play severe outside leverage. CV's playing outside leverage. It's just we had three guys deep, and I mean two deep, where they get an 18-yard gain right there and able to clock the ball. And I mean, you talk about a game of inches. I mean, it really was. I mean, Carl Brooks almost got another one, but it was just they were a little bit too close.
What was the process today of just flushing that and moving forward?
It was exactly that. It's like, anytime that you have mistakes, you got to own up to them. You got to face the music, and all you can do is move on and be, look at yourself critically and make the necessary corrections and make sure it doesn't happen again. And unfortunately, I think that was a little out of character for us, and but it was unfortunate because it cost you a game.
You have an update on Christian?
Yeah, it's not good. So he'll be out for the season or the rest of the year.
Is it for a guy that's been battling so much stuff?
Yeah, it's a big time loss. Just his presence on the field alone. He's so versatile in his ability to play multiple positions. You can put him at the X, the F, the Z. You can move him all over the place. Obviously, he's got an element in terms of his size and speed that's tough to replicate. There's not many built like him around the league, and I hurt for him. I obviously hurt for our team, but I just more for him, just because I know how much he's put into this thing, and just like all our guys, and you never want to see that, and it's an unfortunate part of our game. But like I told him, I know he'll attack it the right way. He'll handle the adversity. It'll just be a bump in the road for him, and I think he'll come back better. That's just how he is built. That's how he's wired. And so I do think that there will be good. It's just going to be down the road.
Do you think either Jordan or Malik Willis will be limited at all in practice this week?
That is a good question that I couldn't tell you right now, because I talked to both of those guys. They seem to be doing all right, but as far as their limits, I think they're going to be okay, but we'll find out over the next 2 days.
Going back to Christian, I know you don't have the ability to see the future, but looking back now, were you planning on not playing him if Romeo wasn't sick, and should you have just gone with 4 active wide receivers?
Yeah, we talked about it all, to be honest with you, and I never want to say one event impacts the other event, because he came to us, I think on Friday, and just said, hey, if I go and practice today, can I be up? And at the time, he was going to be limited regardless, and we were going into this game with just, all right, you got limited amount of snaps when that spot became available. But there was a lot of discussion into it. Unfortunately, it wasn't even his knee that was bothering him, so it's just an unfortunate circumstance that transpired. And I never want to say it's blame one event on the other, but there was a lot of discussion, I'll leave it at that, in terms of just, we were very aware of just having him on a limited basis, and we didn't even get to that, really.
But if the Eagles go back and watch that Vikings game and just say, all right, let's just keep everything in front without Watson, how do you guys generate movement down the field and even some explosives.
Yeah, I think just going back and watching Philly, I've got a pretty good jump on them this morning, and I mean, week one feels like a season ago, literally, and I just feel like the defense is, I mean, they're humming right now. It's a very talented defense. You can tell that they've got everybody on the same page. It's much more difficult to get some of those explosive gains. So I would tell you that it's going to be very important for us, for our offense to be efficient, stay ahead of the sticks. They got superstars on every level of the defense. So we're going to have to make sure that we're doing a good job of taking what's there and churning out and fighting for every inch on the field on Sunday.
Was Romeo back in the building? Is he better?
He was, yeah. He's feeling better.
So Christian did tear his ACL?
That is confirmed, yes.
Matt, how much hope or optimism do you have for Evan Williams this week?
Well, until he gets out there, I'd say he's questionable and until he proves otherwise. But I think he's moving around a little bit better. But we got to play it through the week, and then I can give you a better answer towards the end of the week.
How about Quay? I'm sorry. How about Quay as far as, since we're talking about injury guys?
Yeah, I'm optimistic, but we'll see. I mean, he's another guy in the same boat, and he hasn't practiced, so we got to see how he's looking out there, moving around, and see where he's at.
Potentially have 2 roster spots. Could you do it? Is there anything you might do with those in terms of?
Yeah, that's something that Goody and I talked about this morning.
Is there anybody who could come in and, I mean, actually?
I think we're looking at everything right now.
Zane's still in concussion protocol.
He is.
What do you need to see Jordan do to get the accuracy back to where we've seen it be before in the past? Is that
Yeah, I don't want to put it just on him. It's everybody. We got to make sure we're doing a good job in the pocket, having firm pockets. There's been a few times where, like there was an example, I want to say it was the first third down of the game where he's working through, or maybe it was the second one. Anyway, where he's working through his progression, try to hit Chris Brooks on a check down, and like we're getting too much push. So it's everybody. There's a couple plays, as there always is, that you'd like to have back, and it's just about taking what is there, reading with your feet, taking what the defense is giving you, and going to the right place with the ball. Where we just gotta, that's gonna be critical in this game moving forward in order for us to stay efficient, to stay on schedule, and have success offensively.
So, Matt, there were times this year where your passing game was really humming, right? So it's not just him, but what do you need Jordan to do? What do you need to do better as a play caller?
Yeah.
What do you need?
Well, you always like to get number one open. I mean, that's the idea. Sometimes it can be difficult depending on how many different coverages teams play, where you're calling something for a certain coverage, and if you get the look, you're usually in pretty good shape, and if you get something different, you have to have an answer, and that's why I think, all-purpose plays are at a premium. You always want all-purpose plays where at least at a bare minimum you can get a check down, and certain teams might do different things to you that can limit your possibilities for those checkdowns, but I think it just goes all in the planning portion of it, is just making sure we have sound football plays and at least you have an outlet to go with the football.
So like when the Vikings play more man than you anticipated, did you feel like you didn't have as many answers as you?
There was a couple plays, I would say, in that game, not to rehash the past, but yeah, where you're anticipating something where you just never want to have, I would say, stagnant routes that are sitting down, not running away from people, because they're probably going to be gloved if your initial concept does not work.
You mentioned you've got a pretty good start on Philly. Where's your defense going to be tested the most with Saquon?
Everywhere. He's obviously the season he's had is, he's dynamic, and he hurt us when we played him the first game of the season in terms of not only running the ball, but he caught a rail route out of the backfield. So he's a guy that you absolutely have to have eyes on, have vision on, and making sure that you have a plan for him. And they do such a great job because there's other weapons out there too. And then you got to contain the quarterback, and they got one of the top offensive lines in the National Football League. So we'll definitely have our work cut out for us. But I think our guys are eager for the opportunity, to be into the dance. And that's kind of what I told them. And we got to maximize the moment, and we got to make sure that our prep's on point, that our process is on point, so we can go out there and give our best effort.
Have you gotten sort of a mixed bag of how teams have tried to stop Josh Jacobs? So when they attack you as an offense, do you see some teams just go all 8-man fronts, or have you been? It seems like you've been seeing a lot of too high coverage lately. What do you see?
Chicago played a bunch of single high. So, I know Josh played a limited amount, which kind of was the plan going in. But, I think every defense is a little bit different. And some people are going to rely more on their front seven, and other teams are going to bring a safety down in the box and try to use their secondary to help support the run. I think it's just whatever they feel their strengths are and however they can stop the run, that's what they're going to do.
You mentioned in the passing game wanting to get number one open on every play. We've seen a lot of guys take their turn in that role, the go-to role. Do you need to see a guy consistently step up, especially this time of year, and be that go-to guy when you got to have it?
No, I think what it is us putting the specific people in the right spots based on whatever we're trying to get done. And I got a lot of confidence in everybody in that receiver room, and I do think that makes it a little bit more unpredictable in terms of where we're going to go with the football when they're targeted all over the place. But certainly there are certain times when if somebody's going to go man you up, then you know who you're going to go to.
Is that more challenging from a play calling perspective when it is kind of by committee and you have a lot of different guys?
I wouldn't say that. I think it's all dependent upon, how teams are going to attack us, and then just us having not only the proper plan, but the proper adjustments in place, that if they throw you a curveball, because, this is the National Football League, and everybody's they get paid a lot of money too. They spend a lot of time, and I know Vic, I've got a lot of respect for Vic. I think he's you could argue he's the best in the league. So they're going to have a specific plan for us, and we better have the adjustments and timely adjustments if they give us something that we're maybe not expecting per se.
Is momentum game to game, is that real or just media nonsense?
Yeah, I think that's more for you guys. Obviously you would have liked to win every game especially going into the playoffs, but I think, the game is pretty fresh right now. So today is the flush day, and it's like moving on. So as soon as our guys get done with their meetings, it's on to Philly. And that's just life in this league, because if you're living in the past, it's probably not going to have a very good future. So you got to learn from whether it's positive or negative. And unfortunately, a lot of times you learn more from the tough lessons than you do from your successes. But you got to be resilient. You got to keep turning the page and just get back to work.
The meetings today are your standard Monday meetings where you rehash the game before and you wait until that process is in and to go move on?
Correct.
Bo only has a handful of catches this year after that run he went on last year. Do you think, teams will still respect kind of what he can do down the field, and do you have to call on him more with Christian?
Yeah, potentially. And Bo made a couple plays in that Minnesota game versus bad leverage, and he's a guy that we got a lot of confidence in. If given the opportunity, I think he'll make the play.
So Matt, you can't live in the past, so what do you take from the last 2 weeks that you can apply moving forward, both for you and for your team, so it's useful, that the lessons, what are the lessons you're taking from
Yeah, I would say that we have got to be more detailed. It's been a little sloppy, and that's in every phase. And one of the things I challenged our guys on is it's, again, process over results, because if your process is right, if you're playing and doing your 1/11th, playing with the right fundamentals, playing with the right pad level, playing the right technique, then I think those results will come. And you can't just look at the result of a play, because there was a couple plays, really in every phase where we got good results. We were stuffing them for a yard or two, but we're getting cut out of a gap on the backside. And you can't do that, because especially with the team we're going against, that has an offensive line like they have, that has a running back like they have, because they will gash us. And conversely, we made some plays down the field where Tuck goes up and makes a great catch on a stick nod versus man coverage, and maybe the ball should have gone to, I think, Malik running across the middle. It was wide open. So you just can't get consumed by the result. It's got to be the process, and we got to make sure that we do a great job of coaching the detail, and then it's got to get, everything has to happen on the practice field. That's where you improve, and that's what gives you the confidence to go out there on game day and perform at a high level.
Talking about sloppiness, you're talking about pad level running.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that that we can work on in every phase. That just, there's got to be a standard for how you play every snap. And when it's not getting to that standard, typically what's going to happen is you're not going to get the results that you want. And that, I would say, showed up yesterday in the game.
I'm not trying to belabor the point, but when you get to this point in the season, you have been pretty detailed. You haven't been sloppy for most of the season. So when you look at that, why would that happen at this point in the season now?
That's a great question. And, it wouldn't have happened if I knew that. There's some things we're going to tweak with our practice schedule. A lot of times when you get to this point of the season, you want to take a little bit off their bodies. So we've had a little bit more walkthrough. So I think we got to get back to practicing on a daily basis, and whether it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to do the same number of reps that we did week 1 of the season, but I think the consistency of which you practice allows you to go out and play a little bit more consistent on Sunday.
Does it help to pare down some of what you're doing, so that you're better at what you're doing instead of better at everything?
Yeah, I think we do pare it down, especially when we get to a game plan. And a lot of the times, I don't care whether it's offensively, defensively, or on special teams, you're doing a lot of the same things. You're just dressing it up and making it look a little bit different. So that is something that we're always conscious of, and we're not just going to take something out of left field that we haven't worked on all season and just shove it in the game plan because we think it might have a chance. There's always going to be game plan designer type ideas, but I think you got to limit those, how much you really do. It's all goes back to how much time on task do you have, and if you don't have time on task, then it's hard to expect your guys to go out there on game day and perform that at a high level.